Get you again, y'all. And in the famous words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in hopes that we wouldn't say it first, but truth must be told.
And the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it
is?
Yeah. Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown letter.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Hey, Rod.
Yep.
Can you see the screen?
Yep. So this is the real Kia on Facebook. And we're gonna start off by showing a few minutes of the discussion that she having about teaching the conjure to other people and how they misuse it. And then we're gonna go into the conjure spell and how it's broken now. How they told us it was broken. So roll that being footage.
Also, I got the full video and the link in the descriptions to the sister's YouTube and to this actual full video because it's 26 minutes long. We only took like the first 5 minutes of it. All right, so if you want to watch that whole video, the link's in the descriptions.
Y'all ever hear about the YT female plantation owner who was practicing voodoo, unalived 3 of her husbands, was cursing people, especially slave men, on her plantation, SAing them, and was taken out by a slave who was more powerful than she was?
I just heard what we about to go over in this video. Today we are talking about dark magic, specifically voodoo practices that white people have entered in, and it bit them in the ass. They left out the fact that some of these plantation owners, some of these kings and queens over there in England, all of them who were taught this by, they tried to use reverse psychology and use it for evil. And now you're going to see the repercussions of it. Let's get into the rest of the video.
My name is Noah. I'm a spooky spiritualist, and on my page I talk about that, spiritual reparations, haunted people, places, and things, and I encourage you to do so now. Now, the spiritual reparations that we're about to partake in are Chef's Kiss. Let's talk about the White Witch of Rose Hall, aka Annie Palmer, who still haunts this plantation.
What?
All because supposedly a careless practitioner forgot to finish her sealing ceremony. And if you don't know what a sealing ceremony is, it's whenever someone dies and they want to keep them in a certain place, they seal it off so that their spirit can't roam. Annie Palmer was born in Haiti. Her parents unfortunately passed away from yellow fever when she was about 6 years old, and a black nanny adopted her, teaching her voodoo. Now, at the time of her growing up, Haiti was...
Do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? Oh my God. Okay, that just you just seeing it in the story time. If I have any like white people who are watching me, listen. I'm not talking about the ones who are doing positive things, but it's like it's not just white people who are turning things that they learn into bad things. But I'm saying at that time, where all of the hatred that was happening in that frequency, they were using it to make it even worse. They were using it to keep melanated people enslaved and their souls being stuck at these plantations. This voodoo nanny taught her all of this information that she's about to use to do all of this messed up stuff to these people. Oh, Lord.
Where they was whipping asses. Okay? And this made it very dangerous for young Annie to be around because they were taking no prisoners when it came to the Haitian Revolutionary War. So eventually she moved over to Jamaica, where at 18 she met John Palmer, who was a plantation owner, and married him. But Annie wasn't cut out for the married life. She was a floozy, and she couldn't keep her hands off of her husband's slaves, if you catch my drift.
Oh.
She would regularly essay these enslaved men until one day her husband caught her in the act. Now it is said that John Palmer was an abusive man and used to like to play Rocky Balboa, and Annie Palmer was tired of it. So she started practicing voodoo on him. John eventually passed away under suspicious circumstances, leaving Annie the only living heiress of his fortune. And this is where the cruelty, essaying, and voodoo turned it up a notch because now she had no one to answer to.
She took that money.
She was absolutely cruel to her slaves. Not only was she essaying the men, she was very abusive to the women, doing all kind of massa-ish activities to them. Annie eventually remarried twice, and both of her husbands suspiciously unalived. And even though she was never charged for any of her husband's death, they all knew what was going on. And they suspect poisoning and voodoo was involved. Annie took many slaves as her lover, but she had one slave in particular that she'd grown to really love. His name was Taku. Taku seemed to be loyal to Annie, visited her bedroom every night, and did everything that she asked for the most part. Taku was playing his position and acting strategically. So much so that Annie freed him. He was technically a free man of color. He was also a very powerful voodoo practitioner himself.
Ooh.
And whenever you are of African descent, it doesn't matter what someone who does, because it's in our blood. We're always going to be more powerful when it comes to that line of work. But one day, Annie, being the narcissist that she was.
Yeah, it's the first part of it right there, right?
Yeah. So what she's describing is the way that the sisters was teaching the European girls certain herbal magic that they use it and they call it Wicca. Right? Now, this is Mama T, and Mama T is going to tell you about the spell that we finna discuss being broken and how we knew that the spell was broke. All right.
They already told you that the spell is over when Lizzie over there died and they snapped the wand and put it right on her casket for the whole world to see.
Wow.
Most of y'all missed that, went right over your head. Now, what queen you know? All the queens I know carry scepters or staffs. This one had a wand. Only people I know that carry wands is witches and warlocks.
That's right.
See, they putting everything right in front of your face because it's revelation. You thinking it's a great war of Armageddon, but it means to reveal, to awaken. Your pole shifts is that spinal cord that go up, have all the nerves connected to that go up to your brain, that's sparking a whole new form of consciousness in you. That's your great awakening. There's a reckoning coming. And some of it is coming from people that just look like me too. And some people who won't be the one to help you may not look like you. See, y'all thinking it's about bloodlines. maybe 12 tribes. But now, sometimes it could be about them blood types. I dropped a lot of breadcrumbs in this video, baby. Y'all sit back and y'all ponder on all the things I'm talking about. Cause time's just about up. Fine.
All right.
Okay, now we know that they told us, they put it in the public domain that the spell was broke. This was the George Washington challenge. The George Washington challenge was a pact made in Masonic lodges. This is why it's not part of his public record, but they can't take it out of the public domain. They have to leave it in the public domain in some fashion or form for us to recover the information and put the story together. And we didn't went over this before, but this is when they put the tribes with the conquistadors, Huguenots, and gentry under one determination of black, right? And the reason why they done that is because we was the ones responsible to break the spell. Either the righteous Moors is gonna win or the dirty Moors is gonna win, right? Mm-hmm. And said we would agree to take the feathers and turbans off the Moors' heads and remove the sandals from their feet. You see when it say sandals, when the Europeans came over here, the French, Italians, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the English, they wore something called buckle shoes. We all remember the buckle shoes. We went over that, Elder.
Mm-hmm.
But our moccasins, they call sandals. Enforce severe punishments. This is reiterated by, nonetheless, I think it was John D. Rockefeller, which is going to tie back into this when we go back to the origin of the oath or the origin of the blood contract, right? Mm-hmm. And then it say, swear a death oath. The death oath is called the most violent, bloody oath of the papacy. We already went over that. Mm-hmm. But anybody that want to see it, it's online. You can look it up. It's called the most vile and bloody oath of the papacy. That's their death oath. Between ourselves to religiously, that means they're going to use religion, and faithfully, and they're going to use faith-based organizations not to allow anyone to teach the Moorish children, going to block us out of the education, who they really were and who their forefathers were, and only allow the Moorish children to be taught that they were truly Negroes, Black people, and colored folks. 200 years from today, the Moorish people would not know their nationality, nor their national name, or their forefathers. Also, they would not know from which land or ancestors that they descended from. So all of those means is in there. Now, it's a couple things we need to know of terms. This term called patsy, right? Now, remember, we're talking Machiavellianism. When we're looking at these definitions or these descriptions that AI print out, it's going to tell us the background to the term patsy, which is a person that takes the fall for somebody else's wrongdoing. The person that took the fall is called a patsy, right? And it was tied to several different points of origin. As we see right here, it's the Italian influence. Some believe it derives from the Italian word pazzo, meaning madman, or the Southern Italian word paccio, which is also tied to Pinocchio, meaning fool. After Italian immigration to America, pazzo might have been Americanized as patsy and used to describe a gullible or easily deceived individual. Now we're talking Keefe D. Now, when they say vaudeville, remember, DC is political satire. Hollywood is actual big screen satire. It's all comedy. It's comedy, it's drama, it's vaudeville. Vaudeville was the plays they used to put on, and the traveling minstrel shows had what they call vaudeville acts, where they did plays and other things. It's another strong possibility traces the term Patsy to Patsy Bolivar, a character in a late 19th century vaudeville skit who was always blamed when things went wrong. This character may have become a popular image of someone who takes the fall for others, right? That particular play was based on a true story. It wasn't a true story in and of itself, but it was based on one. The Irish connection. There's also a theory connecting Patsy to the Irish American diminutive to the name Patrick. In this context, Patsy was initially used as an underworld adjective for all is well, which evolved into sucker.
Wow.
The Pazzi family. Now, this is between two warring families in Italy. You had the Pazzi family and the Medici family. Prince Niccolo Machiavelli was the advisor from prison to the rising prince named Leonardo di Piero Medici. That means lion of the dog of the Medici clan, which is a Jewish story, the lion and the fox is what they're talking about. The lion and the fox is the quintessential characters of the perfected leader. Right. So when they tell you the story of Machiavelli or Niccolo Machiavelli, he was a part of the fallen order. When the order fell, all of the advisors to the old royal family, the Pazzi family, was rounded up, and that's who Niccolo Machiavelli was originally working for when he started before he got locked up. When he got locked up, he assessed all of the princes of the Medici family, and up on his assessment determined that the most likely Medici to become the king would be the prince named Leonardo di Piero Medici. And so he started courting him through letters. He was writing letters back and forth, trying to get his attention so that he can work his way from out of prison by advising the prince that's about to become the king on showing his prowess as an advisor. Smart. So first thing he wrote in was a series of letters, right? These letters is in a book called The Discourse by Niccolo Machiavelli. It's Discourses. Then he asked, the prince asked him to give him a treatise on war, and he wrote a book called On War by Niccolo Machiavelli, where there's a discussion between the NCO general and the general that worked his way, a commissioned officer who came in through school. So you had one that was educated in warfare and one who had rose the ranks that was going through the actual warring on the battlefield all the way up to the rank of general. He was eventually raised. So that's the art of war. That's his On War. And their discussion is war strategy. So he sent that to him. And then his most prominent work is The Prince. The Prince is instructing Leonardo on what the prince that aspired to be king need to know in order to hold his positions of power as the king. But first he has to become a crown prince capable of seizing the throne by blood and by right, and also outshining all the rest of his adversaries. So the Pazzi family is who their major conflict was. So some sources suggest a link to the Pazzi family of the 15th century Florence, who were involved in a failed attack on the Medici family and were punished severely. However, this theory is less likely due to the timeline. The word patsy as a fall guy was first recorded much later, around 1900. Right? So, in summary, while the exact origin of patsy is debated, it likely stems from a combination of influence, including the Italian term for the fool or madman, and the popularizer vaudeville character who served as a scapegoat.
Wow. This makes sense now. This connection right here. I needed this piece. Let's go to the other piece.
Okay, now this word is martyr. A martyr, it tells you here. So we know Jesus was a martyr. We know Malcolm was a martyr. Martin was a martyr. Gandhi was a martyr. And there's a whole bunch of other ones. But the word martyr originates from the Greek word martys, meaning witness. In its original context, it referred to a person who gives testimony, often in a legal setting. However, the term evolved to encompass those who suffered death for their faith, particularly in the context of early Christian persecution. Right? So when the Christians was killing people for not betraying what they believed, that person was classified as a martyr. Right? So you have both Christian martyrs and non-Christian martyrs. You have so-called Jewish martyrs who died for the Jewish faith. And then you have Islamic martyrs, like the ones who put on the vest in Kabul. They considered as martyrs for Islam and the freedom of Palestine. Right? In the dictionary, it says a person who is killed because of their religious or other beliefs is a martyr. A person who displays an exaggerates their discomfort or distress in order to obtain sympathy or admiration. That's actually a pseudo martyr. It's a person pretending to be the martyr, the second definition. Right? So we wanted to know what these words mean. And this is why, because the martyr for the American Revolution is the one with what they call first blood power of sacrifice. What it means by power of sacrifice, meaning that the first blood is the blood required for a sacrifice to be is most functional. Let me get a drink, El.
Take a drink. Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, man. We're about to get lit.
Okay. So let's say the first blood holds the power of sacrifice. Can be interpreted in various ways, particularly within a religious context, where the shedding of blood often symbolizes sacrifice, atonement, and redemption. Got it? Biblical interpretation. First sacrifice in the Bible. The shedding of blood first appears in the biblical narrative when God provided animal skins to cover Adam and Eve after they sinned. This sacrifice is seen as atonement for their sins and foreshadows the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Right? The power of the blood. Blood is closely linked to life and sacrifice in the Old and New Testament. Leviticus 17:11 states, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is in the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul." Right? That's called blood right. See, Jesus' blood sacrifice. This is where they say they martyred Jesus. The blood of Jesus is seen as the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's sins. His sacrifice made once can cleanse all sin, grant redemption, and allow believers to enter God's presence. Covered in blood. Let that sink in. I don't know what God they're talking about. Sacrifice and atonement. Across different traditions, Blood sacrifice often symbolizes the surrender of something precious to appease a higher power or to atone for a wrongdoing. The shedding of blood representing life has a significant impact on releasing power or achieving redemption. That's real important. The significant impact on releasing power and achieving redemption. So you can use the blood to gain power, and you can also use the blood to redeem the power. Right? Protection and preservation. In some belief systems, blood sacrifice is linked to protection and preservation. For instance, in the Passover story, the blood on doorposts marked the house of the Israelites for deliverance from the plague. Right? In summary, the phrase first blood holds the power of sacrifice highlights the belief that the initial blood sacrifice holds significant power in terms of atonement, redemption, protection, and the ability to affect change by giving something precious for a greater purpose. Right? So the George Washington conjure is enforced by the blood sacrifice of Crispus Attucks. Now, the origin story, well, before we go into the origin story, Elder, the also in the description is the video I did with B-Dale on blood sacrifice, where we go way deeper into blood sacrifice than we going in over here. But we have to know it was the first blood sacrifice that they used to put us in the sleep state to keep us, and they enforced it with harsh punishment, mistreatment, and abuse. And our enemies never stopped murdering us. Even when we stopped fighting them, they still never stopped murdering us. They still never stopped killing us. They still never stopped feeding us to the beast. They even infiltrated our organizations. Now, remember, when they infiltrated Garvey didn't have no pale faces in his organization. He had pale faces that he knew, that he spoke to about the conditions of the people. But in his organization, the only people that could infiltrate the UNIA was somebody that looked like us. The same thing go for Noble Drew Ali. The same thing go for Elijah Muhammad. The same good thing go for Yahweh bin Yahweh. And I can keep going down the list. But they've been using this pattern of infiltration and subversion. And the origin story goes back not to John D. Rockefeller, but to the wizard. The quintessential wizard is John D., who was this, but the one that was before her. So the ones that carried the weight of the conjure, Rockefellers, right, was also instrumental with advisory to the Queen, Elizabeth. And you got to see everything coming out of the conjure you seen going in the conjure. We just seen it in the mirror effect in a different position, but having the same fundamental function coming out of the conjure, right? So they finna tell you a little bit about John D. Is this what this is about?
I think the one about John D is the one with the other dude. This one right here.
John D. Rockefeller, that's what he was all about. He's the richest man in the world, was raised by a psychopath. John D. Rockefeller's dad was named, they called him Devil Bill. His dad, they know all about his dad. This is not a conspiracy theory. Their family, historians will tell you about his father. He created him. He was a rapist, snake oil salesman, running from the law, changed his name. Devil Bill? Devil Bill, that was his name. So he had a bunch of sons, and John D. Rockefeller was one. And he was known, he was quoted as saying, I cheat my sons every day. I want them as sharp as can be. He just fucking trust out of them and just drowned all their trust. So John D. Rockefeller grew up not trusting anybody. Dude, he got busted for monopolizing oil. They finally indicted him. He had to break apart Standard Oil, and it made him a billionaire. That's what made him rich, is when he got busted. When he had to sell everything off, he took over over education. Dude, you know how he took over universities? Dude, he wanted to take over the world. He wasn't just trying to sell gas, he was trying to take over the world. Our education system is all based on Rockefeller Foundation shit. Like, he strategically wanted to make school so that we got people just smart enough. This isn't conspiracy theory. Just smart enough to work. They didn't want anybody too smart. That's how the school systems were designed.
All right, so this right here different.
I was today.
We'll go ahead and play this one.
I think that's the same one. Play it.
Years old when I found out.
John D. A Tudor
Oh no. Okay, hold on. Before you go to this. Okay, so you see in the last video, it told you about John D. Rockefeller's father being called the devil.
Mm-hmm.
We see that John D. Rockefeller was one of the founders of the modern system of education.
Right.
Under him, you had two psychologists who worked at different times for the Rockefeller Foundation, who funded a lot of these nefarious psychological training programs. You had Ivan Pavlov, who was a Khazarian from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had B.F. Skinner, right? Who I think he was from Canada.
Right.
So they were the ones instrumental in creating what's called the condition response system and the four walls closed method. The four walls closed method is derived from something called a Skinner box. Mm-hmm. So y'all can look up a Skinner box and see what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. He ruined his daughter with a Skinner box. Okay, and Ivan Pavlov was the one who discovered something called condition response, but he was under the Bolsheviks. So they had to leak the information out through spy channels to get it over here to the Rockefellers to use in the development of modern education. We are not being educated at school. We are being socially programmed to be self-destructive. In the origin, and the person that dug up all of this from ancient records, name was John D., who became an advisor to Queen Elizabeth way back in the day. He gave her a 200-year program that wasn't implemented until the George Washington Challenge around 1776. Mm-hmm. And that program was a blood right ritual. Right, you're gonna hear them talk about something called Enochian magic. The Enochian magic system is an ancient magic system that John D. was exposed to somewhere, that he began to put the pieces together on how to entrance large groups of people using the blood sacrifice. Mm-hmm. But the rank have to be consistent with the reaction of the people. So this tell you that Crispus Attucks, who they keep claiming was a mixed American, but he wasn't. He was a full-blooded American. Always been here, bloodline ancient.
Right. That's right.
And so the reason why they have to always tell you he was the first person to die in the American Revolution is so that we will be able to identify what's called the sacrifice of the first blood. By identifying that, it tells you how to break the conjure, is exposing it to as many people affected by the conjure as possible. It's the only way to break it.
Okay.
And so we go over who John D. was, and y'all get to understand the magnitude of all of this sorcery and conjure work that went in to putting us in this stupor. Roll that beautiful bean footage. As my man, we know the truth now. Roll the corn. Roll the corn.
And also, my ad, if you don't know who Crispus Attucks is, we got a whole video on the video side on his storyline. If you scroll down on the video side, so and I'm gonna put it added to this class. So let's roll it.
I was today years old when I found out.
John D., a Tudor-era English mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, occult philosopher, and imperial advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, was a mysterious figure who had a wide range of interests. John D. may have been the inspiration behind Ian Fleming's iconic James Bond character. It has been claimed that John D. was England's first secret agent for the Crown. He often signed all his correspondence with his codenamed 007.
John Dee was a man of many talents. He was a scientist, a mathematician, and an explorer of the mystical and magical. He had a keen interest in astrology, divination, alchemy, and the exploration of demonic magic. He owned a number of objects that were related to these interests. One of these objects was a purple crystal on a chain, which he claimed was given to him by the archangel Uriel, which was most likely a demon, along with instructions for making a philosopher's stone. The philosopher's stone is a legendary alchemical marvel that promised the gift of eternal life and the ability to turn base metals into gold. He also possessed a clawed glass, a black glass mirror kept in a sharkskin case, which he used for peering into the future. The mirror was inscribed with the words, "The Devil's Looking Glass," and the black stone into which Dr. Dee used to call his spirits. Dee developed Enochian magic from his interactions with the entities he believed he saw in the mirror. Enochian magic is a system of ceremonial magic based on the 16th century writings of John Dee and Edward Kelly, who wrote that their information, including the revealed Enochian language, was delivered to them directly by various fallen angels. Dee's journals contain the record of these workings, the Enochian script, and the tables of correspondences used in Enochian magic. Dee and Kelly believed their visions gave them access to secrets contained within the Grammar, Liber Logoth, which Dee and Kelly referred to as the Book of Enoch. His works inspired H.P. Lovecraft and the infamous Aleister Crowley. He was an advisor to the British Empire, who coined the word Britannia and developed a plan for the British Navy. He was also the first to apply Euclidean geometry to navigation and built the instruments to do so. He was a philosopher to Queen Elizabeth, who determined her coronation date astrologically and even visited him on horseback. He was also the founder of the Rosicrucian Order, a Protestant response to the Jesuits. He translated Euclid and wrote a famous mathematical preface. He also put a hex on the Spanish Armada, which is said to be the reason why England was victorious. Dee's reputation was hampered by his interest in the occult, and his pursuit of knowledge led him into dangerous territory.
Man, Raw, this just gave me a whole nother connection. I wonder if this dude connected to the dude, John Dee, that sold the heavy equipment to the Yamasee, and then they came back to steal their land later. Remember the John Dee?
That's John Deere.
Oh, John Deere. Yeah, it's connected. It's connected. I bet you it's a connection there with the John Deere, the one that.
Yeah, John was one of the most popular names that they would call us.
Go ahead.
You know he was native because his last name was Deere.
Go ahead.
Well, all of us over here, all of our last names was either tied to our family's profession or our totem animal. The oldest tribes use totem animals to name themselves after.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is why you get people named John Elk, John Deere. You know what I'm saying?
Bear.
Yeah.
Bear. Yeah.
Yeah. All of them come from native bloodlines. They don't come from. That's why they carry that. Now they could be. Some of them could have been passing and integrated into European culture over here and still carry that name because they still carry the blood. Right. It only need one drop of blood. Okay, so that was one. It's a real long one on here. We're not gonna watch, Elder, unless you want to. But it's another one on John Dee. Yeah, we can watch this one. He gonna tell you more about John Dee than that last video, but he gonna tell you some different stuff, and then we gonna come back in and see what comes next.
And I assure you, you'll never think of the artist formerly known as Shakespeare in quite the same way ever again. And our preconceptions about the writer, that small screen, black and white, grainy film that's playing in our collective consciousness right now, is about to explode into widescreen, technicolor, surround sound, like that moment in Wizard of Oz that changed cinema forever. Because in this story, there's a real wizard, Dr. John Dee. He was the leading mathematician and cryptographer of the age, astronomer, navigator, Hebrew expert, Queen Elizabeth's astrologer, and super spy in Europe, code number 007. He documented years of seances in which he was conversing with angels. Now,
whether they were what we today think of as angels or, let's say, extra-dimensional beings, whatever they were, they certainly were helping Dee with his mission to create a cryptographic masterpiece whose purpose was to hide the true story of the greatest cover-up in literary history and pass it on securely across time so that it could be revealed once the world was ready to fully receive it. And that time is now.
So we revealing it. So now when we talk about first blood, now look, the first person to die in the American Revolution was Crispus Attucks, right? A mixed race man, and I want you to tell you he was a high chief who was killed in the Boston Massacre on March the 5th, 1777. That's what set off the Civil War. He was shot by British soldiers during a confrontation that escalated into the event known as the Boston Massacre. Attucks was a sailor and is now considered the first martyr of the American Revolution.
Right.
So now you see why we went over martyr. Right? Because what was he fighting for? He was fighting to liberate the tribes from the parasites called the British. That's what he was fighting against. The British is in control of your police force. The British is the same as saying the English. We just say that when you say England, you're saying a small part of the British consists of 5 islands or 5 pieces of land. Right. But when you say English, England is one of the British territories. They 5 land pieces of land territories. Right. So you see how it started during the confrontation, right? That escalated into the Boston Massacre. Right. So around this time, we talking Boston Tea Party, where people dressed up like Indians to protest the tax that the British was putting on the tea, the 2% sales tax.
And the British were the Moors, right? The British were Moors.
The Moorish gentry, they was gents.
Yeah.
Right. But remember, the people that's dressing up like they Indians to raid the ships in the Boston Tea Party, they was masquerading as us. Why would they masquerade as us?
Right, the Mohawk tribe.
Okay, now they have to look like us to act like us.
Right.
Or the other people would have knew that it wasn't us. If they was pale faces dressed up like us, then the rest of the pale faces would have knew that them ain't them ones.
Yeah, that makes sense, Rod. Go ahead. I didn't think about that.
Right. Now, in the colonist grievance was, according to the history books, the colonists was the ones mad about the tax. We don't give a damn about the tax to Britain. We want y'all off the land. This is what Crispus Attucks is dying for.
Yeah.
Right? Because y'all came in wreaking havoc out the gate. History's already told us all of this stuff, but what do it mean is the hard part of reading what's being told. When John Dee say he was coding stuff, he's talking about Shakespeare in the Bible, right? Who shakes spears? Only 2 people on the earth is known for shaking spears: Americans and Africans.
Right.
So let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, that's heavy duty right there.
Who is the flaming spear?
Right.
That the natives call the flaming arrow. Right? So the reason why this is in the Elder, if you could scroll to the bottom so I can see what it say. It's more than one Big Mama on the land, just like it's more than one chief on the land.
Go ahead.
This is the Breaking of the Spell edition, right? On Big Mama's land. To all the Big Mamas on the land, this is how the deception worked. with the blood conjure magic in the blood of Crispus Attucks. They wrote a constitution that was supposed to last until 1776, but we gave them an extension because we went back to war and we an elder.
1812.
Yep. Which gave they 200 years to be up in 2012. The only reason why we still lingering around is because all of the chiefs that knew what was going on didn't know how to explain it. So I had to get drafted from my regular life that I had built for myself at the prison, where I had everything I wanted. I had to give it all up in order to give y'all everything y'all need in order to break the spell.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Friday the 13th. Frida Day. Frida Day.
That's fair.
So Malachi, book 4. 4 mean four corner shuffle. Right? The four corner shuffle is the 4 X's. The 4 X's is the motherland, daughters, to daughter to mother. So this is the information that the women need to know more than the men. Right? Because somewhere along the line, they didn't also use some other, what we call yoni blood magic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And only the women can track that down because it's tied to the portal. And they had to come together in agreement to break the final branch of the spell, which was the menstrual blood ritual that followed the sacrifice to Crispus Attucks.
Mm-hmm.
So any of the sisters out there that's mediums, track that energy down. And if you tell me the story, I can remember exactly where to find the receipts. So pull out your tarot cards, your runes, your divination tools, your candle, right? Whatever it takes, because that's the only things that the women gotta agree that the yoni magic can't be used to help hold us in bondage any longer because the core spell is broke.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is part of the Right Knowledge series. Now remember, everything we do, Elder, in the public domain. Public notice for all of the tribes.
Yeah.
Notice the agent is notice the principal.
That's right.
Once we put it in the public domain in the oral tradition of the people, and the people have free access to it, then they get to teach one, spread the story so you can show them the receipts to understand the conjure work in order for the sisters to break us free.
Go ahead.
So it's up to the feminine to call back all of the feminine rogue energy. Rogue is another way of saying rouge. Rouge means red. Red is the reference to the blood out of the red house. And every drop of blood counts. It's one drop unaccounted for.
All right, that's the last one, Rod. I got some questions for you then.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Let me go back. Let's see.
I remember when they say he put a spell on.
Rod, this what we get.
Hold on, Elder. You remember when they say John D put a spell on the Spanish Armada?
Yeah.
Remember when they said that? So what was the spell? They never told us what it was supposed to do, but it was Spanish. What else happened around this time, right after the American Revolution, that tied to the Spanish Armada? Or you might call it Morocco.
I'm going to say that the peace, the treaty happened 78,
yeah.
79, and the Illuminati
right, because
right around the same time too.
All that stuff is tied together. Right.
Yeah, I know.
And the only reason we know about it is because we're supposed to put it back together in a digestible format. Elijah Muhammad said that we got to make it plain enough for a baby to understand it. We can't get more simpler than we been, with the receipts being there to guide the vision to see the problem.
Hey, so what was
then we give them the solution?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because we had everybody trying to take advantage of us because they say we were so nice. Christopher Columbus. Now this the thing. Okay, so they said we ain't have guns. Christopher Columbus allegedly said in his diaries that we didn't have guns, and that because we didn't have guns, and that the way he described it, because I just picture based on what he said. He said that we were afraid almost of this type of weapon or this type of things like he said they were fearful of this gun. So he talking as if we didn't know what guns was when the Moors came over here. They used to have guns like the British. Everybody before he did.
Okay, let me deal with that.
Okay.
This is how you know that guns is nothing new. They just named and changed over the millennia to protect the guilty. If you go back to the Dogon, when they was given instructions by the Momo, right? They said, do not partake in the projectile weaponry. It is forbidden for you. They don't use guns to this day.
I think I heard something like that, but when they said I thought they were talking about a slingshot or something.
Talking about the guns. The guns. Before you come with energy-based weapons, when a new civilization is on the rise, it's going to always figure out projectiles first. Because it's the easiest thing to discover. Picking up a rock and throwing it. Your arm is a projectile weapon. You're slinging a projectile. But it's going to evolve where you figure out how to make the projectile deadly. This is backing it up with some extreme power under pressure, like gunpowder.
That's right.
Encased in the shell, capped with a slug. Right? So so the guns ain't nothing new. Right? They got different kinds of guns in ancient literature, but they not the kind of like, for instance, they got ancient Chinese guns that was like a Gatling gun and shoot a whole bunch of like bottle rockets at you at one time, like 100 of them. So it's been around a long time.
Now this is the thing, man. So the British, it seemed like to me, the Moors was taking advantage of us at the same time, but then it's like it was different groups. Like one group was only protecting their people. Like they had Muslim Moors over here, they were protecting them. Just like the peace in the treaty, it said that we want to only protect our people, the American citizens, the Moors. That's American citizens. That's what the Morocco said. Then it said nothing about indigenous people, right? And then, but a lot of people make that when they say, when the Moors made that statement, they were talking about indigenous people. Those American citizens were indigenous people, right?
Okay, now you gotta remember, a lot of what they attributing to the Moors is actually done in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Right, because Morocco only been Morocco since this 1900s.
Yeah.
The flag came from Noble Drew Ali, who had it first, which came from an ancient Indian flag from over here, which was actually a banner. Then they took it over there and established Morocco, but Morocco, like everybody's saying, ancient Morocco, not ancient. It's not even 150 years old yet. Right? And all of this is part of us when we understand that they use this magic conjury to put us under a hypnotic spell. Right? The hypnotic spell was enforced through, because you have to do, when you do a conjure of that magnitude, you have to have what's called a maintenance system. If the maintenance system starts to break down, the power over the spell will break. because nobody's maintaining the conjure. And so this is why you had an 1812. They didn't understand fully how the conjure worked. They were still figuring it out. Right. But the spell began to break off the people. And war broke out.
Yeah, so this is the thing. So with the American Revolution and these guys, cause we building up to it. These guys got brought over here by the Moors. These criminals, they were convicts that was starting the 13 colonies. They were like mostly convicts, and the convicts were working for dirty Moors, working for Moors.
They were all indentures. They was called indentures when they came over. They wasn't called criminals yet.
Okay. Yeah,
they was called in because in Europe, see, you got to go back to the to English law, which most of us on this side of the land don't know jack about what was going on in England when all of this stuff was going on, because we only care about what's going on at home, which is practically makes sense because we ain't supposed to give a damn what's going on at your house. I mean, we ain't taking care of what's at our house. So all of our focus is trying to figure out the history only from the American viewpoint.
Right.
But when we start going into world history, and this is why Dr. Clark and Dr. Bean used to be so hostile sometimes toward people trying to explain this stuff to them. Right. And Dr. Bean was one of the first ones saying that it's two groups of black people calling themselves the rightful Jews, and one of them is a fraud.
Right.
Right. And then Dr. Clark is the one tell you how they even got, how these newcomers, these pale faces even got to be called a Jew.
Right.
Right. Then Dr. Clark also said, I question the intelligence of anybody who believe everything in that supposed to be true. So he said that the stories is not even supposed to be true. Some of them are metaphors.
Right.
Right. But when you break it down, go back to its origin, all of the stories converge on the holy drama, which is the Syrian resurrection story, the oldest resurrection story on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And the only reason why we confused about it is because they changed the names to villainize the innocent and glorify the guilty.
That brings my next question, Rod. Now, how could you be once you find out all this information about the doctrine of discovery, about how Elizabeth and them got over here scheming and scamming, doing magic and witchcraft, to get over here and force us by gunpoint to be Christians? How could you still be a Christian after this? Like, how could you still believe it? Like it's hard to go with that. Dang, we got colonized with Christianity, you know?
Before I knew that we didn't have Christianity before the colonizer.
Yeah, right.
Before I knew that the Bible was written geographically for a small group of people out of the place today called the Middle East. Right. Before I understood any of that, I knew that they had the story wrong.
Dang.
I knew that. I told my mama when I was 5 years old and the preacher was telling us a story, Mama, why that man up there lying? I've been knew that long that this been some BS. Now, my lifelong mission is to figure out how to tell the tribes what's going on without them thinking I'm batshit crazy.
Right. You totally get crazy, being that everybody being colonized with Christianity and indoctrinated with the Roman Catholic.
They hypnotized.
Doctrine. Yeah.
It's mass hypnosis. That's why they got us tied so strong with religion, because every time the hypnosis get to fade, religious people find a way to religiously bring you back into the fold of religion. Religion is monotony. Monotony is required in order to induce the hypnotic state. So anybody want to understand what I'm talking about, there's a preacher named Roy Masters, retired from being a hypnotist to be a preacher. and he have a book called The Hypnosis of Life that explained to you exactly how you was being hypnotized. Now remember, the blood magic is to put you in a stupor. That means that's how they tell the mass group of people to relax with the blood ritual, because the pheromones from the blood sedates the angelic beings. So they go into this stupor because it was the blood of the righteous. It can't be broken until it's been fulfilled. Right? So now we just had to track down who blood did they use to put us under this spell. Right? And we know that the matriarchs now is primed to receive the heritable right back to the land. And so now they need to correct the sisterhood. The sisterhood got to be prepared to fall into that love energy in order to convert this place to heaven on earth. Once they do that, we'll be all right. But I'm gonna tell y'all something else. John D was using the black mirror. You remember that?
Yeah, that's what you just said, the black mirror. And he was right, yeah.
Do you know who else was using the black mirror around that same time, but they was French?
Not Bloody Mary, French. What's the dude name?
Niccolo Nostradamus. Yep.
Yep.
He was using the black mirror just like John D, except he was in France, a Huguenot, and John D was in English at the gentry.
Did he train
advisor to the queen?
Then Nostradamus wasn't he trained? He was training Mary. He trained Mary, Bloody Mary, the lady. You know,
I don't remember which one because the John D Elizabeth, I think her name was originally Mary before she became the queen.
I was going to just ask you. Yeah.
Right. I think she was the one that was Mary of Bathory that they call Bloody Mary, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because Nostradamus was studying the Hermes or Tahuti's stuff. And he was a high power wizard. Well, that's what he was one of their high power wizards. That's why they always promote his right. Now that begs the next question. How does that Nostradamus tie with the slave ship narrative that they gave and the screw knot? Because you was breaking that down a while back, where you said that they took the slave ship and it was really the layout of a church. You had showed
that's Notre Dame.
Okay, Notre Dame. That's what it was. Yeah, go ahead. That's what it was.
Right. So the flyer for the slave ship, with the slave ship on it that they was using to tell us about slavery, is an actual overlay Notre Dame University.
Yeah.
Right. It looked like it could be the blueprints taking away the schematics.
Yeah.
If you go to an aerial view of Notre Dame, it's a perfect if size it to scale where they both the same size and they perfectly fit one over the other.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
I got it somewhere on one of my Instagrams too.
Yeah, we did on the
where I showed.
I'll find that short and cut it. I'll find the short and cut it. I think I had already cut the short off of it though. I think the short already in your folder.
Yeah, I think we did that in the class too, didn't we?
Yeah. On the one called Where We See You Two Black Devils. And the one on how the slave trade was fake. They can go get the tape called How the Slave Trade Was Fake. We did it in that one. That's the one, that main one. I'll lock it in the description. Hey, that brings my next question, Rod. Because they good on this slave narrative. Now, once 1812, this is when we get around the Seminole Wars and the Gullah Wars, right? Because Andrew Jackson is the one that's running everybody out, trying to run everybody off.
That's like the second or third Seminole War there.
Okay, yeah. So when Andrew Jackson, the Seminoles, when we was fighting them, that was part of the conjure. That was like that. Like what part of the conjure? Because that ain't in the conjure. That just ended the physical battle of it. The physical battle.
So in the largest, I don't know exactly who's responsible for because I don't have access to the record. It's a Masonic record. It'll tell you the names of the ones that agreed to the ceasefire. It's the secret treaties. I think it's like 72 secret treaties.
Yeah.
And Trump took him to Mar-a-Lago with him. That's why he got raided. But he wasn't there no more.
That makes sense.
That's what they was looking for. They was looking for the secret treaties because Trump had already sent them to the military under heavy guard in order for the contract to be broke.
And that's why he holding the Bible outside of the church upside down.
Right. That means that the Bible spell is broke.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi tore the Bible up on the podium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same day. That was the same exact date.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Pope announced, he washing his hands. He been did that actually before they told the Bible. So that gets that, yeah. So the Pope already know the contract.
That's what made the other Pope step down. Because they wouldn't listen to him no more. Right? Because all this stuff was over with. He was telling them. Right, I think that was the Barack Obama letter.
In 2014, we got that documents too in the folders and the Native American chief.
Now everybody think that's a fake letter. Okay, well think it's a fake letter if you want to. It's in the public domain. It's not a secret.
Yeah, everything comes to fruition now.
Yeah. So when they told them they're supposed to dismantle the police and all that stuff.
Yep.
And told the American public what was going on. But what most of us don't know is Barack Obama was following the orders that old man Bush told him, if they take me out or if they get on to us, you have to sell the country. And that's the only way you're going to be able to get any protection overseas. He's supposed to sell it and flee. He got caught. He can't go nowhere.
Yeah.
They was all around him everywhere he get. This is what that whole situation when they was trying to kill him with Petraeus and all of that. Cause he had pulled off a full-fledged coup on the people of the land. And he ain't from here.
Go ahead.
He pulled the coup on the pale face. You know, he don't like for no darky to get over on him. But he was trained by the old man Bush.
Yeah.
He was just like his nephew. They got pictures of them together when Barack Obama is a baby. 7, 8 years old or whatever he was.
Yeah. And it was in connection with Lolo Sorrento.
Lolo Sartoro was best friends with George Bush.
That's right. That's right.
He kept his secret about Big Buddy being a man.
That's right. Hey, that's my next question, Rod. Because one day you called me with a clue, and we never did bring this clue back up. I don't think about the wrinkle flags on the coffins. George W. Bush had a wrinkle flag. Colin Powell had a wrinkle flag. Could you go in on the wrinkle flag on the coffin at the funerals? Because
the law of flag, wrinkle flags is for traitors and veterans who defected, like AWOL high-ranked officials, stuff like that, or people that they suspect of corrupt deeds beyond the reach of the military. They give that's called a dishonorable burial. Right. That's why the flag is wrinkled.
Right.
But the honorable flag is crispy and it's folded neatly. And it's not wrinkled when it's on the coffins. That's called honorable disposal. Arlington Cemetery was just to count the bodies tied to Crispus Attucks through U.S. military channels.
That's right.
That's right. The civilian deaths wasn't even counted.
That's right. That's right. It was a massacre. They said it was a massacre. You think one guy got killed, it was a massacre. That means the whole town got took out.
But they never stopped bombing our cities. The most prominent one in recent years is Philadelphia. How you think Rosewood started? How you think Black Wall Street started? The same exact way. Burn down one business and all of the wood and stuff catching on fire. Right. And a lot of the brick buildings had wood trusses on the inside that burned, causing the ceilings to collapse, so they wasn't no more good. Then after they bombed Black Wall Street, didn't nobody want to stay there? Where they all go? Atlanta. They double back on their ass.
Hey, you know something? It seemed like to me, man, when reading Christopher Columbus' diaries, it's like he painted us as some happy-go-lucky people. Like we were just la 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 la. We had all this gold and pretty women, and it was just a heaven. It was like we was in heaven. The way he painted it's like we was in heaven, and they got to come over here and stop us. We got to cut their heaven off and take it, and they got to serve us and bow before us. They came with that type of mentality. Like we was in heaven, and they got
that's the same. That's the same mentality that got them excommunicated from Europe.
Go ahead.
You got to remember, at the time Columbus came, right, to America, the Inquisition was in full swing, and the dirty Moors was on the run from whoever they pissed off over there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So in that same time period, you had your Spanish Inquisition, and then you had your French Revolution, like almost like in short order behind each other.
Napoleon got funded by the Rothschild. Yeah.
And he's showing you a pattern of wherever they go, starting that BS, people wake up and rebel.
Yeah.
Right. John D gave them a formula.
Yeah.
Once they figured out that they have to maintenance it, they ain't stopped spilling blood. They opened up slaughterhouses. We didn't slaughter mass casualty animals like that. Right? But it's already the first blood. So the continuation of the first blood is in the sacrifice of the flocks. You go back to the biblical story when the so-called Lord told, I think it was either Joshua or Jeremiah, to go kill off the whole city and kill off everything in it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When they told, when you get there and killing the people, kill off the livestock, right, and the cattle or whatever they got, and burn their crops. So that's called a erasure ritual, trying to erase a bloodline. You don't want anything that can be used to use conjure magic to bring that bloodline back. All they need is one living descendant and a sacrifice from the original land. And that living descendant, if he figure out what happened, he can resurrect his bloodline. And this is how you get your grail lines. Those with the conjure in their DNA that is going to be called forth genetically in order to perform the function of compelling everybody to close these BS conjures so we can move into the golden age.
Hey, so
I figured it out.
And they said that the bad witches said that the only way they gonna win is the good witches do nothing. Only way they say that if only way we can win, evil prevails when good do nothing.
Yeah, because good, the balance of the universe is neither good nor bad, but somewhere in the middle.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Right. I mean that you can bump left. That mean I'll fuck you up if I have to. Mm-hmm. Or you could bump right and say, I come over here and be as righteous as you need me to be. But at the end, you still gonna bump back straight.
Hey, so I'm thinking like, my bad. I'm thinking like, what kind of deal we have? I'm still trying to figure out what kind of deal we had with these British Moors, because it's like at one point when they brought the devil over here on us, and then when the devil turned on them and cut them off, he then turned on us, and then they went off and said, "Oh yeah, we can't help you now. We gotta get on because it's this devil too powerful." And now he turned on us, started taking out more of our land. You know what I'm saying? They the one brought over here without the Moors. They would have Christopher Columbus would have never made it over here without the Moors.
Go back to the beginning of this video and what the real key is saying. People like this was teaching these people stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then they just needed somebody that was either negligent in order for them to use it on them.
Yeah.
If you're negligent and you know you was negligent, you're not responsible. But if you know you negligent and you do, that's called violating your oath. If you know you negligent and you don't do nothing to stop it, but you don't tell nobody, you become part of the problem. Right? That take us back to the story that's being told in the East Coast, West Coast beef. It's a story being told in that drama. Right? The Chiefs is reenacting events happen in history using modern cultural influences to effectuate the message being told. Sitting Bull was sitting on his post. That's the message. Tupac come through and told him, hey, you can't be sitting on your post. You didn't let the enemy in the gate.
Right.
Has nothing to do with the real life people that may have either lost their life or got hurt in the process or got locked up. It's this ancient story being told in order to unravel the mystery of what's going on the land. You need two master artists, right? You need two grids that's excellent storytellers that's coming from two different parts of the land, telling the story by theatrical performance, right? Then when they exit stage right, stage left, right? They can only come back stage right on what they call a resurrection of the story. That means there's a sequel, right? And the sequel plays out in a whole different beef with two whole different people, right? Or three. So it's the next time it play out as the Gemini twins trapping the dragon between the left bump and the right bump. And the dragon is a Draco. So now we see it play out in the artistic performance because one of the Geminis gonna send it back up to Pac. Right? So once he sent it back up to Pac, it got to come back down with an answer to the conflict. As above, so below. The Hollywood stars pretending to be the stars in the sky, they just get a little closer so you can see their light shine. And once you recognize the character, real recognize real because he looked real familiar. So then you see the drama play out, and then you understand who's what and where your dog at in this fight. They labeled me a outlaw tribes. The tribes that wouldn't do the treaties. The non-treaty tribes, the enemy-dependent nations, the foreign dependent nations. Somebody had to go in the books and tell y'all how they hiding us. What did they do on the Trail of Tears? They moved in their indentures as we wouldn't go along with their program. So we stayed down there and they just changed who we was on the paper. So we always believe that we ain't who we are and we supposed to stay delirious for 200 years. And it worked.
Yeah.
Until somebody said, until the green one said it's time to break the spell. So they send me to the lab. Right?
They call that move. They pull rabbit. They call that move pulling a rabbit out the hat. The act. That's one of they acts. The act of the Indian Removal Act. All these acts. They call that pulling a rabbit out of a hat because they pull a white rabbit out of a black hat. It's all synonymous with what's happening right now. You know
and also a rabbit is called a hare.
Go ahead.
Right? Hare in a hat.
Go ahead.
Hare is it's a homonym for heir.
Go ahead.
Heir is the one with the heritable birthright. The rightful heir is the right person with the right heritable birthright and the right sense of mind to add right knowledge in order to execute the right plan to deliver the right people from all the wrong MFs. Right? So we zigzag flip all the way through all of the masters that told us exactly what to do. And everybody that took the message wrong, that's okay. The ones who needed to get the message got the message in order to explain the message to those who never been exposed to the message. And this is how you unlock the trap that we was put in by putting it in the public domain. And that's why we use the oral tradition and not the written tradition. Because you can write it in the book, but none of the ones they call the N word is going to look in the book. We already know that because we not readers. We talkers and walkers. We live what we preach and we preach what we live. Right? We what they call the authentic ones, the ones that stand on business first and then indulge in the pleasure after. As long as there's work to be done on the flow, we're going to tend to the business at hand. And then we're going to chase our hedonistic pursuits after we conquer and win. Right? So we sacrifice ourselves for the collective in order for the collective to collect what we got coming. And now the collective bloodlines, 13 in total. Isis and the 12 daughters. The 12 daughters is the 12 mothers of the earth, and Isis is their mama. And ice is as ice is. Cold and frozen. We talking North Pole, baby.
That's right. And we break down the redheads. The redhead, Isis redhead.
I get to them. And the North Pole is where the cold pole at, the ice pole. Right? Polaris. Right? And the pole star is over the pole until he descend. And when he descend on the pole, now you got a cold ape at the Northgate holding on to his pole with a gorilla grip. Right? Pounding on his chest, beating on the concrete to awaken the strong and the weak. Right? So the 12 daughters represents all of the daughters of Isis that make up the 12 families of the earth tribes. The foreigners are the interlopers because they don't know what mama line they come from. Because they didn't come from none of the 13. So them somebody else babies, masquerading as mama's babies. Right? They look like us, but they ain't us. That's why they told us all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Right? So the sister sent out the SOS and the BOS gave them a knockback in order for the code to crack. So the real Kia wanted the receipts that told us where it was tied to. Mama told me to deliver the receipts on Friday the 13th. So I collected the receipts and put it together and put it in the public domain. Because when they try to use your ancestors against you, your ancestors was going to either stand there and see what you do, or they going if they feel like that you doing everything right, the person that sent your ancestor to get you gonna get it instant karma. But a lot of the stuff that we was under is because we turned our back on our ancestors, so we couldn't see what happened. They couldn't feed the information down the genetic line because they was clipping us off from the vein. They was cutting us off from mama line. But when you go back to the mother line, that's where you're gonna find your right man. Right? And so the redhead princess, we talking Scotta and Scotia. Scotta is the heir to the Scottish Bank. Scova is the heir to Nova Scotia, meaning she have a territorial right. And Scotta had a currency right. They got two different kinds of birthrights to the wealth. One inherits the gold and the silver, and the other inherits the green and the land. So the daughters that left Scotland and Ireland, because they was under attack, they came over here, right? And they settled over here, the redhead princess, But they always thought they had found her, but they hadn't found her because she got around them, right? They thought they were smarter than mama, and mama outsmarted them all because she put her baby boy up to go find him, drag him out, and don't miss a beat while you monkey flip and catch every key. So when she was teaching me how to put together the puzzles, I was showing her with the Legos I knew how to build. Once she understood I knew how to build, she sent me to my father to see if I could find my way back home. So when they dropped me off in the park and I got lost, I told them where my daddy worked. That's Fisher Body. That's Body by Fisher. Right? So when they went and got Pops from work, and he was like, boy, how did you know how to tell him? I said, because I pay attention. You just don't think I do. Right? So then my Pops sent him back home and said, this boy know how to find his way out of anything. In other words, he can see through the maze, the LA Barif, the labyrinth, the maze of trickery that leads to the deception that need to be uncovered for us to understand the story that's being told through Hollywood political satire, through the old Delta blues that transformed into every genre of American music. As long as they play in a note, I can read the sign, even if they're not the originator. Because if they play in the style of Jimi Hendrix can talk to me through their music. If they play in the sound of the Purple Madness, the Purple Passion, the Purple Prince can talk to me through their music, right? If they have exceptional vocal skills and they know how to beatbox, Michael Jackson can talk to me through the music. So the imitator becomes the facilitator to deliver the message from the master to the student. It's all in the public domain. This is the end of the end game. I told everybody, Elder, if you remember, before it's over with, Trump have to call in the National Guard before they get rid of the police.
They calling them in California right now. And look, oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Rod. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, so California is filing charges against Donald Trump to remove. They file a restraining order on them because like some of the states are still they classify. I know Texas and Texas and California is the two states that's still got their own republic or something like that.
Well, border states got different rules than interstates.
Okay.
Because they border states, their use of the National Guard is more easily administered because it makes them vulnerable for invasion.
Right.
How we know that? They telling you where we got invaded at when the Califia Queens got slaughtered because they knew we was leading up to Friday the 13th free day or freer day.
Makes sense now.
All this is, I keep telling y'all, it's convergence. If you watch the movement of the stars, and then if you watch the events as they unfold, it's a pattern. You watch it long enough, you just see the pattern coming, even when you're not looking for it. The more you use the faculty, the more control you have of it, the more you can fine tune the skill. Right? So, by seeing this stuff and knowing the process of governmental transition, you got to remember they did the same thing in South Africa. Right before they gave up the apartheid government and gave it back to the South Africans, the Queen of England, Elizabeth, issued some kind of decree, right? Then they went down there and South Africa, they listened to what she said and they got rid of all of the armaments. Remember, right to bear arms is supposed to be a right, not a privilege. You're not supposed to put an abridgment on the privilege.
Right.
You're not supposed to license a right. A license is permission to do something that's otherwise illegal.
Right.
If it's a right, it can't be illegal whether you have a license or not.
Right.
It's only if it's a privilege can you abridge it. You can't put addendums to a right.
Right.
So they've been fighting to disarm us, but we had one problem. We had a group of gung-ho crackers, rednecks, hillbillies that don't want to give up their guns.
Well, they ain't giving them up.
So they the only reason why we got a right to get our guns.
And they said they're gonna pry. You got to pry from their dead cold hands. That's their motto. We got to pry from my dead cold hands. That's what they are. Yeah.
Right.
Real
so
deal.
while we would look, the shield worked both ways when you know what nerve to touch.
Right.
They got them convinced that the United States is the actual proper government on the land.
Right.
Right. But the contracts is the constitutional treaties. And in the Constitution, it's a right to bear arms. And because they put everybody under slavery and not just us, you have certain people that they got to maintain the appearance of superiority in order to uphold a white supremacist system. Right? So all of the stuff is they doing, they swearing up and down they not doing it while you watching them steal cookies out your cookie jar, eating them, and they's telling you, I've never seen your cookie jar before.
Yeah.
But they standing there with their hand in it, steady eating the cookies. So, yep, the secondary constitution, Rashad Jamal 3.0, was the one written in the blood of Crispus Attucus, but they don't tell you that. But it's in the George Washington Masonic Memorial. Along with the fezzes of the Moors that came, and they don't have the feathers of the chiefs that went into the conjure against them. But they got all of the fezzes on display. The chiefs can be seen on a mural of Carlos V. Carlos V is Charles V. And he had a bet with the Spanish that we would win. He had bet the Spanish king, I think it was one of the Georges, that we would win. He put his money on the tribes over here. And that's why you see he's on the mural with the I think that was Inca chiefs. But we all had to go into the darkness in order for one of us to find their way back to the light.
Man, bro, I was watching this movie, man, about in Africa when the white colonizers was first coming over there. And man, in Africa, like you didn't want to go over there during the 1600s, and before that, you didn't want to go to Africa as a white guy, man. Look, like one tribe, when they got him over there, they said, "Come on in," and then they tried to cook him. You know what I'm saying? They had already had a fire going and everything. They put him up in there with some lettuce and tomatoes and onions, and they were balling him.
You got to remember one thing. You can walk from Africa to Europe. You might have to swim about a quarter mile.
Go ahead.
But across the Pillars of Hercules, as they refer to, right? You can look on one side and see the other side. We can go swimming in the ocean over here and don't see the other side. We got some lakes over here that you can't see the other side.
Yep, like Lake Punch.
But you can stand in Africa and look into Europe with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Africans had already encountered Europeans long before they brought them over here. And this is why we had to study African root science, Medu Netter, right? Because it's telling you codes. The light codes is in the literature. right? So when we start studying the rosters, we study in the Holy Pibby, we study the Sacred Parchment Scroll of Black Supremacy. Ties back to the Ethiopian emperor, right? Because the Ethiopian emperor at one time was called the emperor of the world, right? But now we in modern times, imperial days are long gone. Days of kings are long gone, or so we thought. The days of these people being publicly known is what's been long gone. The puppets that represents the will of these people is called the boule. The boule are the ones who learn the language of the French king to be able to talk to him in the king's language. That means code, right? Now remember, they got King's Day rebellions scheduled. It's called King's Day Rebellion. What has the king ever rebelled against if he the king? Think about it, Elder. You king of your castle. In your house, you muted.
They rebel against the people, bro.
No, you in your house. You the king. You can't rebel against the people, but the people can rebel against you.
Yeah.
In your kingdom, you the ultimate power, or are you?
Right.
Who would the king rebel against? There's only one person in this house he'll rebel against.
The queen.
Sit.
Man.
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
The
It makes sense.
extra feminine king. They called him King John for a reason. And Magna Carta is the work that he wrote, the Great Charter, right? To make the commoner and the king appear on the same level. Now notice the word appear. Right? So King John in the Magna Carta, now what that got to do with John D?
Go ahead. That tie seems like it tie in.
Who did they say that the queen fired and ran from the her royal house? Go pull back up the first John D video.
All right.
Listen close to what she say. This is important. Right? They telling us the story as is unraveling. Because it already happened. Now we watching the mirror effect of the unraveling of it. It's only going to be like a little ways in. I'm going to tell you when to stop it.
This is the one with the girl talking?
No. The next one after that. Because remember, you almost played the brother first.
Also, it's the queen. Hold on, this one right here. Is this one right here? Hey, y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, man.
John D. Rockefeller, that's what he was all about. He's the richest
No,
man
that's
in the world.
Rockefeller.
Was raised by a psychopath. John D. Rockefeller.
You
said the one about Queen Elizabeth?
About John D. Yep, and Queen Elizabeth. Not that one. The one before that. The one you did before that.
Okay. Okay. This one right here. Let's see if this is it.
I was today years old when I found out.
John Dee, a Tudor-era English mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, occult philosopher, and imperial advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, was a mysterious figure who had a wide range of interests. John Dee may have been the inspiration behind Ian Fleming's iconic James Bond character. It has been claimed that John Dee was England's first secret agent for the Crown. He often signed all his correspondence with his codenamed 007. John Dee was a man of many talents. He was a scientist, a mathematician, and an explorer of the mystical and magical. He had a keen interest in astrology, divination, alchemy, and the exploration of demonic magic. He owned a number of objects that were related to these interests. One of these objects was a purple crystal on a chain, which he claimed was given to him by the archangel Uriel, which was most likely a demon, along with instructions for making a philosopher's stone. The philosopher's stone is a legendary alchemical marvel that promised the gift of eternal life and the ability to turn base metals into gold. He also possessed a clawed glass, a black glass mirror kept in a sharkskin case, which he used for peering into the future. The mirror was inscribed with the words, "The Devil's Looking Glass," and the black stone into which Dr. D used to call his spirits. D developed Enochian magic from his interactions with the entities he believed he saw in the mirror. Enochian magic is a system of ceremonial magic based on the 16th century writings of John Dee and Edward Kelly, who wrote that their information, including the revealed Enochian language, was delivered to them directly by various fallen angels. Dee's journals contain the record of these workings. The
I don't think that's the one, Eddie.
of correspondences.
Yeah, that's the them three right there is the one about besides with Queen Elizabeth about the with Mama T.
No. It's not. It must be the one with the brother on it.
Yeah, the brother. Let's see. I think
that was it.
Right here. Which about the one about John D, right?
Yeah, not Rockefeller, the other John D.
John
But
D.
it's saying
Rockefeller, that's what he was all about. He's the richest man in the world.
yeah, that's Rockefeller. It had to be the other one because the one that won't play.
Yeah, that's the only.
Let's see if the old man mentioned it in there that he fell out with the queen. Well, what did we read about it?
And I assure you, you'll never think of the artist Shakespeare in quite the same way ever again. And our preconceptions about the writer, that small screen, black and white, grainy film that's playing in our collective consciousness right now, is about to explode into widescreen, technicolor, surround sound like that moment in Wizard of Oz that changed cinema forever. Because there's a real wizard, Dr. John.
No, that's that one that won't play.
Yeah, so it got to be the one. Yeah.
That one that won't play.
Who did she say she kicked out, though?
Yeah, she fell out with him and put him out of the palace. John D.
John D. John D.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm starting to put all this together. I'm gonna go look more into the this conjure. We got another tape. We did 2 tapes a long time ago where you broke down more in detail on the conjure. I'm gonna put that in the links too. It's called Conjure Part 1 and Part 2. Those classes right there. That was lit. But we'll take a couple. We got about maybe like 15 minutes. We'll take a couple questions from the crowd. Y'all got any questions for Chief Rod Hayes? Drop it in the links, man. Let's see right here.
Tell them about my Cash App, Elder.
Oh yeah, I got the Cash App right here. I'm finna drop it. Put it on the screen right now. I got the Cash App and the PayPal.
The PayPal. So I want you to tell them because people be trying to send me stuff on Cash App, and it ain't been letting it come through. It kind of lets some come through. So if it don't work, then use the PayPal.
Yeah, I got the PayPal and the Cash App up there.
Yeah. So you could try to Cash App first. If they send it back, then you have to send it. Then you got to send it on PayPal.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'll start the questions. It says I want to confirm access to the website. What's the link? What website? Do you think a blackout will hit this year in America?
You know what? A blackout can mean a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A media blackout is when the event happened and the media doesn't cover it. Right. So you got different forms of blackout. So I know we have to have something that signifies the Great Reset, and before they could do the Great Reset, we have to watch the unfolding of the narrative play to a conclusion.
So, Chief, if you could elaborate on the Congress board structure, whom would you put on the board? If you could create your own structure, hold on, let's see what this says.
I wouldn't use it in the way that they use it. I use it the way that the matriarchs used to use it. Congress is short for Congress of Mayors, right? And it used to be a meeting of town mothers before the government took it over and use it as if it's their own. And the Congress of Mayors was a meeting of matriarchs, and most city capitals had a Congress, or most regional city capitals. We had like the land wasn't broke up into 50, 48 continental states. It wasn't broke up like that. It was divided up by lines of demarcation, by territorial boundaries. And this is how people become associated with a river, because the river they associated with is what they named after, right? Like the Shoshone is named after the Shoshone River, branch of Old Mississippi, right? But the Upshaw is Upper Shoshone. I mean that they was from the upper portion of the river. So you had the regular Shoshone, they was probably on the lower portion, as they would call it, but they was there first. So you had to identify the secondary tribe, which is probably like a brother that couldn't get along with the father, and his brothers ran him out. Go set your own tribe up. Big Mama point a piece of land. These are your lines of demarcation. So he wanted to be tied to the Shoshone too. So he said, well, they Shoshone, so we Upper Shoshone, becomes the name Upshaw in the English language, right? And a lot of that happened where you have hyphenated or you have compound last names like Goldsmith, right? The Goldsmith is who used to smelt the gold for the tribes. We used to have our own currency, right? And this is how they knew we was wealthy. And it started back in Columbus's journal. You got to remember, Mansa Musa also disseminated large quantities of gold across the land when he came.
That's right.
Or his brother did, Abu Bakari, right? And they gold coins was circulating on the land. It still had the seal from where they came from in Ghana.
Right.
This is why they keep trying to tell us we from West Africa, because they believe that the Ghanaian blood from the West African tribes, because we have kingdoms and then we have empires, right? In one kingdom, you could have a king and you could have 50 princes that all got a territory, right? And so when they come over as indistinct haplogroups from a father line under patriarchy. But if they got a territorial right, most of them not leaving their motherland. They not coming over here, the women not. And this is why you see a lot of the travelers, it was hardly ever females on pirate ships.
Right.
Right. Most ships because this is during reset period. We coming out of a cataclysmic event, a global destruction.
Yeah, that's all right.
And as we putting it back together, you have people that's actively interfering to slow our progress down so that in the meantime, they can get as much benefit from it as possible.
Right.
Right. Now, if they leave us to our own devices, we go naturally farm the land. We're not working in no factory. So somebody got to have a factory that they family is big enough to work in if you're gonna make factory goods. Most of the bakers, they was the ones on the bakery.
Yeah, the bakers.
You know, yeah, the cooks. That's where all your chefs was coming from. The kings, the royal bloodline. They
Yeah,
call
the
them
black.
king for a reason. They last name king for a reason. Because over here we didn't have titles of nobility, and they prohibited by the Constitution.
Hey, that's
But they
right.
gave them the name. The name is not king because it comes from the three-letter word KNG, which means father of the family. Which is why they didn't. That's why they still allowed them to use it, even though it's prohibited in the Constitution. But if you try to change your name to a title of nobility, they won't let you.
And but you know, Rod, all the lawyers still carry Esquire. So really, all of them, the judges,
but their children
lawyers,
can't.
Huh?
The lawyer can carry it, but the only way his children can carry it is they have to follow in their father's profession.
Now, what I'm saying
or
is
mother's profession.
that should automatically disqualify them in the court when they go in with the Esquire, being that the Constitution says that you can't have no title, nobility. They automatically disqualify them.
Well, you got to remember, the courts is not from over here.
Go ahead.
They the one, the barristers is the ones running the court system for England, not for us.
That's right.
We have tribal courts over here. The chief don't have to be a certified attorney with the American Bar Association to go into a tribal court and argue your case. He just got to have the ability to understand the evidence and how to explain or question it to the level where you can prove your point. All of the other stuff, that's just extra stuff that they did to put roadblocks in our way. I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about. It amazes me how many people don't know that the capital for the longest time over here was New Orleans. That just blows my mind. That you couldn't even get on the land until the settlers came unless you came through New Orleans. You're on mute, Elder.
The Moors moved it to Philadelphia. And then they moved it again to DC.
It moved to New York. The immigration moved to New York.
So it was in New York first, at New Amsterdam. Then they moved it to Philadelphia. Then they moved it to DC.
Philadelphia was the political capital.
Okay,
but the immigration port moved from Port Enola because we was fighting war in the Gulf.
That's right, against the French. Yeah.
So we had to open up our immigrants on another part of the land. And we also fighting the Spanish Armada on the West Coast. You got to remember that too.
Yeah.
We got to remember that California was defending themselves against the Spaniards. It wasn't California, it was a territory.
Go ahead.
It became California when they chartered it under the Spaniards. It became New Mexico when they annexed it from Mexico. It became Texas when they annexed it from Mexico. But other than that, they had different names. Right now, if Texas want to secede from the Union, they can break up into as many as 5 different states or nations based on geography. They the only state in the Union that kept that right.
Hey, QT Jones, QT Jones, funny man. It's about why the Moors not still around. Why haven't they been eliminated?
Because all of the Moors ain't bad.
Yeah, that's right.
I keep telling everybody, you got 2 factions of Moors. You got the righteous Moors and the dirty Moors. The term Moor is the catch term to put us under for us to fight the war of an intellectual conflict out.
Yeah.
Right? To educate ourselves above the condition. Now, the problem is when they elders become elders and go back to where they come from, that with they elders keeping us in line. Them the dirty Moors. By using the the extension groups, like the United States Corporation, like the JDL, the ADL, right? The country over there that they call Israel. All of those are distractions and things to use as shields to continuously keep us from realizing that we have to educate ourselves about a condition. There's no other way out. You have to be able to clearly see the deception, but they have to put everything in the public domain so you can figure it out. As long as it's in the public domain, then somebody got to put it together, right? Somebody got to put it together and explain it and then show you where they found it in the public domain, right? And the places that they can put it in fiction. It's the same way they tell us fictional characters are really actual people, like Nat Turner. The book, The Confessions of Nat Turner, is the origin of the story of Nat Turner. It's a fictional novel, but we don't want to, it was such a character that was so strong in face of the opposition of the era. We don't care if he was real or not. I'm a descendant of Nat Turner. It's the same way they talk. I'm the chosen people of God. If you got chosen I'm telling you now, if you got chosen to be better than somebody by God, your God is the devil.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because only the devil want to make somebody feel like they're better than somebody else in order to get them to work for him. Right? You got to. The real God don't tell you that you better or less than anybody else, right? The real God tell you that you your own individual self, be the best you can be, and don't worry about being better than nobody else. As long as you're the best version of you, it won't even be necessary because you're gonna shine on the world, being yourself. But as soon as you try to be who society tell you to be, you trapped in your ego.
Yeah, like I said, man, if you still like it, like some people gonna still be Christians, I ain't gonna even like. You could tell them about the doctrine of discovery. You could tell them, hey, man, they put a gun in your head and made you to Christians. Like it's a hard pill to swallow at this point in time. But you should be past it already. We should be past that point of that. Okay, we got colonized by Christians.
You got to remember, people at different levels of understanding. Everybody not on the same level.
Yeah.
We be walking around thinking we all on the same level. We not. Right? That don't make you better than nobody because you on a different level. It just make the level that you on responsible for something different.
Right.
Some of them people still haven't gotten over the understanding that they've been tricked.
Right.
Right. As long as the hypnotized person don't know he hypnotized, you can't break the hypnosis. Right.
Yeah.
So you need a sudden shock in order to jolt their consciousness. Right. But some of us you can give us the clues and we can begin to put together the picture. And once we see it, we can't unsee it. So when we act like we didn't see it, it's still cooking in the background. Eventually, the naysayer gonna become the supporter when they recognize that, wait a minute, that sounds too accurate for it not to be valid. Right? Because it ties to all of the receipts.
Hey, it's right here really a two-part question. What can they do to get active? Because somebody asked what was the female's job? Like you just explained it a little bit. And then could you go in what the males can do, the females and the males? This will be the last question. What can the females then and the males do to be active and be on a job right now as we go into all the stuff that we've been talking about, like far as the world?
So everybody got something that they do, right? All you got to do, first thing first, take care of your immediate family. before you start trying to figure out where else to go look to do some work, make sure you can do the work at home first, right? And once you can do the work at home, then you want to help the community, then you assess how much time you need to put into the community, right? Because you could put in as little as an hour a day or as little as 2 hours a month, but you still have to figure out what you can do. How can you contribute? What are you capable of doing, right? You can't tell any individual without knowing them what they should be doing at this time because you don't know what their skill set is, right? So if you're going to activate, the fastest way to activation is the more people you get to that'll catch their ear to listen to the information. If we don't understand what's happening, then we're going to be behind. We're going to be part of the ones that see catastrophe when redemption is at hand. Because they're not going to be able to recognize the difference. There's a difference between a cataclysmic event and a purging event. One of them done is senseless violence, right? Like my little nephew just got took out today, which it was hard for me to do this knowing that, but it had to be done. But the senselessness of it on the one hand, or the gravity of the reality that somebody's going to have to be dealt with in order for nature to balance the situation. In other words, the repeat offender won't stop repeating until you stop him from repeating. Because once the pattern is established and the habit is formed, it's almost impossible for him to break if you find pleasure in it. So some of them, we got to stop them. And other ones, you leave them to their own devices, they'll stop themselves. But you got to know how to know the difference in the two. The one who has pseudo power, who think they're powerful, are the ones we going to have to actually remove. And I can't wait.
And you remember that? Hey, Rob, you remember that movie 300? Where that dude, the Persian kings or the Persian soldiers came bringing the heads of other kings. Yeah, right. And then when he about to kick him in that hole, right? He looked back at his queen first. She did like this. And nigga said, once she gave him that handshake, it was over, man. She kicked him off up in there now, man. Once that queen said do it, oh man, nigga, I'm finna do you now. Oh yeah, you bring that to my doorstep. You should have thought choose your words kindly. This is Sparta. Boom, kicked him off.
That was one of my favorite parts.
Man, that's my favorite part, bro.
He said, "Only a madman would dare kill a messenger." He said, "You come to my door with the head of kings." He said, "You come." Hey, Leonidas tell him, "You come to my house with the heads of kings, threaten my people with slavery,
right,
and disrespect my queen."
Right? Oh yeah.
When he looked back at her, she said, "He was like, no, I'm not a madman. This is Sparta."
Once that queen gave him that nod, that was it.
You see how he ain't had to do but kick that one, and his soldiers automatically knew what to do with the rest.
Get everybody else follow suit. It's always follow suit with them. Whatever he do, we do. You know what I'm saying?
Look, and they're going to tell you, look, I was looking up the Spartan suit because, the Spartan helmet is supposed to be mimicry of a mohawk.
Right. That's right.
And we was the only ones wearing mohawks. African tribes didn't wear mohawks, but we did.
Yeah. Yeah, the Mohawk tribe.
Yeah.
She Black Hawk. They like now, and also that type of headgear The Igigis, one group of the Igigis had that type of headgear. If you see the Etruscans, that's what they show a statue of these two
And
Etruscans grabbing the girl, like
they Marvin the Martian.
Yeah, like Marvin the Martian. And they were ant beams.
I'm going to slap you with my space modulator.
They called the Tarsissians, and they are a black ant species that came here, and they came down and taught the humans how to dig underground and dig these tunnels. And the Hopi talk about these people. The Hopi got some of like a lot of legends about these people coming down with these helmets, and those ant type of creatures, and they taught them how to go underground, survive, and dig underground, and this and that. They go into it. So yeah, man, we got to get up out of here, man. Everybody try to go to sleep, man. They want okay. I'm gonna get So yeah, Rob, we're gonna come back with another one, man. This was hot right here. This is another one, Friday the 13th. Free all the political prisoners. Big Mama's back on the land, right? Larry Hoover about to be free. Malachi about to be free. Everybody about to get out, man. This is the year. These next 2 years is the years where everything get put back like it was before they came. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel like the next 2 or 3 years, like within this span between now and 2030, everything go back to how it was. But we was happy-go-lucky, like Christopher Columbus said. They walking around like la 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 la. He said it was like that's how he was over here, man. We was having a blast over here before these people came.
And they exploited our genetic memory, used it against us to give us false doctrines.
Man.
They sacrificed the blood of the righteous so that we'll follow their edicts called laws. Right? They did all this stuff, treated us bad, miseducated our children.
Right.
They poisoned the land, the air, and the water.
Yeah.
Now that should be against the goddamn law.
Yeah, he said that. He said their water was so crystal clear you can see to the bottom. Then after they come, it's so black you can't even see to the top. See at the top of it.
Man, I was watching this Western, and this Italian dude dressed up like an Indian. He was telling the white man. He said, before the white man come, you could drink out water from any place.
Yeah.
He said, now our waters are sick.
Yeah. I think I seen that one. Yeah. They say you used to be able to take a cup and scoop out the top of the river and drink it. It was like drinking fresh spring water. But now the water black, the river's black, everything brown, dark black. And Christopher Columbus said he got crystal clear waters over there. Crystal clear waters, what he said. But we got to take this. We got to come and slaughter these people. These people, we got to take advantage. Who are these people, man?
Now, remember, he specifically, geography over here, pinpoint to the finest point. He's talking Jamaica. I mean, Haiti. He's talking the island of Haiti. Because they named it Hispaniola.
Yeah.
When he left.
Yeah.
How you gonna take the people's name off their land and just put your name on it?
They just went around naming stuff. Oh, this ours. Oh, that's ours. It's El Salvador. Oh, that's, we're gonna take it all back
and
to
then
the
they're naming them after people.
Yeah, that's right. Man, I'm telling you, bro.
But Haiti not named after no people. I mean, no Europeans. It's named after the people from the land. Haiti. That's a family heritage birthright land. That's why it's called Haiti.
Yeah.
They chose that name. The European didn't choose it for them. Colonizer didn't choose it for them. They the only one. The legend has it Duddy Bookman the only one looked the devil in his face and when he challenged him and said, "Bring it on."
Yeah.
You see what you got.
That's
devil mean adversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Despookify the message and just put it in its simplest term in common English. Devil just mean your enemy.
That's right. Whoever's against you.
right? Whoever's against you is your devil,
Yeah.
right? And we done seen the black devil now,
Yeah.
right? They left it all in the public domain, but they never would have thought we was gonna put it together. They told me it was like unscrambling the egg. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
But got to be a way it could be done. If it's almost impossible, that means there's something that can be done to make that possible.
Yeah.
It's called alchemy. You
That's
can
right.
alchemize something back to its original, but you can't do it in 3D.
Right.
You have to do it in the 4D, 5D.
Right.
And when you come back to 3D, you got a whole fresh egg all over again. They call it
Right.
turning back time.
That's right.
But you don't literally have to turn back time. You go back through time in the memory. You a time traveler, whether you want to know it or not.
Right.
Because your bloodline in the past is talking to your bloodline in the future, and you just the answer in the middle.
Right.
That's thinking. Your bloodline from the past is talking to your bloodline of the future. And you
Right.
just the messenger in the middle between the two.
That's deep.
And that's why people become oh man, you prophesied. No, it's not prophecy. It's listening. Then pointing out what you see.
Right.
It just if it happened, that's convergence. That's not prophecy. Right? That mirror that John D had gave birth to a program of the US military called Operation Looking Glass. It's now declassified. You can ask AI what was Operation Looking Glass. And it was the ability for them to use systems of probability to determine future outcomes in the course of events.
Yeah, and they got it at the Scottish Rites Lodge in Washington, D.C. The Scottish Rites Grand Lodge at D.C.
Right. I wonder why it would be in the Scottish Rite Lodge.
Yeah, Grand Lodge. And look, Rob, when they invite you there to bring you up to that degrees, they say you got to make a reasonable donation. And guess what the reasonable donation is? $50,000. Yeah,
Well, who is it reasonable to?
That's what I'm saying. $50,000 a reasonable donation. It sounds
but
reasonable.
you got to pay attention because knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. If you're paying for knowledge, you're paying for power.
Go ahead.
Right. The only way to activate it is you need something called wisdom, where you can't activate the knowledge to maximize its output.
Right. Right.
The more you know, the further you go. You heard that one, didn't you?
Yeah. The more you go, the further
right.
you go.
Yeah. What was the United Negro College Fund? A black mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, Marcus Garvey.
Right. So it's telling you all of the secrets in the open. Because that means that the key to your redemption is in your self-education, not the education by the system. Why? Because history is written by the victors. If you ain't coming from the victor standpoint, then you won't never understand history. But if you come from the one who was victimized standpoint and still feel like the victim, you're going to remain victimized. Because you're not going to fight for what's right because you've already been relegated to the learned helplessness of a victim. You got to think like a conqueror if you want to conquer. You can't think like a neighbor if you want to be a conqueror. Right? But everybody ain't got to know what you're thinking.
Right.
So the greatest conquerors can conquer from the mind and then let the effect manifest on earth. They call him an armchair revolutionary because they don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. So he's sitting back in the chair and he's telling the people in the public domain as the Greeks told the story around the fires that night. Right. And the people sit down at the open fire pit and they listen to the grid and he's singing and dancing and telling the story. And then when he get done, he taught them a whole bunch of stuff that they didn't even know they was learning. Right, because he's bypassing the faculty of ignorance. In order for ignorance to be effective, you have to have a system to reinforce the person's ignorance. Today, we call it cognitive dissonance. If you can control what they do with their cognitive dissonance, you can control how they react to the knowledge. But if you can't control the impact of when somebody first received a new piece of information, then you can't never stop them from learning higher forms of information. The only difference between the king and the peasant is class, character, and etiquette. Right? They can be from the same bloodline, but if one put in the work and another one don't, one more qualified than the other one. But just because you're from the same blood don't automatically make you entitled. And that's why they used to have to give you a title, a noble title, to represent your noble character that you come from a bloodline of noble ones. Right? So then they drew a picture, and then you understood that the Ali was the highest you could go. That's an Ottoman thing. Byzantine kings.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about that in the Doc actually break that down in the Let's Set the Record Straight book. He talk about how the titles that only titles that existed before that were L, but still those it comes down to them same people because it's coming down to the 200 fallen. They were the Ottoman Empire, the Etruscans, the Romans, all of them connected in the same boat. You know what I'm saying?
And what's the demigod, Elder?
A half man, half God, I guess. So that's the
what
definition they give.
Okay, now look, what do semi mean?
Semi means like halfway, almost.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what do demi mean?
Like a dim
can't mean
light,
the same thing. They different sequences.
Yeah. Demi, like it's like a dim light. It's like a lesser it's like a lesser potent of what, like saying darkness versus dark. You know, dark is dark, but then you got darkness, which is a lesser form of dark, really, because dark has a little bit. Darkness still has a little bit of light involved in it.
Man, we go look it up.
Yeah.
This comes from the root word demo.
There you go. There you go. Hey, y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, man. We live, we lit. We got something coming out every day for you. We don't stop. We don't quit. Right now, we're breaking down the American blood timeline, though. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the demigod is a Democrat.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because the Democrat comes from demo, the same word.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And crack or crassy means government.
Yeah.
Or administration of government. Demi means devil.
Yeah. The
Demi means devil.
Demon cracks.
Yeah. Hey, you know who did a break? You know, I think about it. Who did a breakdown on that? Farrakhan.
Yeah. Yeah. That's dope. Shout out Mr. Louis Farrakhan, man. Yeah, it's one of my guys.
What Chuck D say? And for the minister of Farrakhan, don't tell me that you understand until you hear the man.
Farrakhan said, he said, don't you ever open your goddamn mouth to call me no anti-Semite. I said, damn, Farrakhan be telling that boy be talking, man. That boy talk major, boy. Don't you ever open
you gotta remember he was taught to be an orator by some of the greatest orators. Nation Islam pull out some talkers, boy. They train them well.
I'm telling you. Man, but Farrakhan said, don't you ever open your damn mouth. What? Hey, we better get up out of here on that note, man. Hey, we're going to be back, boy. Just let me know when you want to do the next one. We're going to be back, man. Hey, y'all, we love you all. Send divine love throughout the boundless universe. Peace and love, positive vibrations going into the Sabbath for the Hebrews. Shout out my Hebrews. Yeah, peace and love. We out. Right?
Peace.
Hotel, divine love.